Are notifications going out? Let's give it a couple minutes or less, hopefully, for some people to get in here, because I hope I have a moderator. Speaking of, hey Vet Kimmy, how are you? So we got 4. Jack, what's happening? How is everybody? Is it hot? Bohica! Hey, how are you? So boy, oh boy, the news. You guys, this is so bad. It's bad. It is as bad as I thought. No one's gonna be that surprised. But I'm glad I was able to stick with it and uncover it all, because it's crucial for awareness. So when people talk about the auditing community, and I'm just tucked away here in a little corner, I'm slammed. I have to go across town and help an individual that I've had in a motel that's very, very sick. And he's homeless, and it seems as though we're gonna have some problems keeping him at the motel, so I'm incredibly stressed out over this, and it's been taking most of my day trying to deal with this one issue. But in the middle of that, I was finalizing this open records request with the most wonderful clerk in the history of ever working with city clerks all over the place. Now, I haven't worked with a million clerks, but I've worked with a small handful in Colorado, and hands down, Littleton. Hey RP, thanks for being here. The Littleton clerk at Littleton, Colorado, I just can't say enough good. She runs a tight ship. She's not messing around. She's responsive to the public. She views it as customer service. And she runs a tight ship when it comes to organizing postings and announcements for city council. I mean, she is worthy of a raise. Let's just say that. Yeah, the stress has been kind of hard, Kimmy. But I deal, and I have to surround myself with people that can help me deal with it, that can recognize some things and say, hey, take a look here and maybe consider this or that. So that helps, because when you're in the trenches of total despair, and there is an emergency 24 hours a day, 7 days a week in the homeless community, yeah, you have to learn to pace yourself. So, because I am so involved in this, yeah, she'll probably be fired for doing her job. She better not be. So when you're just entrenched in wanting to be determined to effectively help people, you just start losing sight of those that you may not be able to help, those that you have to let go, those that you have to come to the realization they're never going to get housed, or they're never going to seek treatment, or they're never going to respect my efforts. And, you know, since I got back from Florida, it's pretty apparent that the majority, not all, that the majority of the people that I've been advocating for out here for a long time have zero respect for me. They've made it very apparent by their actions. And so I'm trying to adjust to that. So luckily I was able to see that and be able to go down this rabbit hole with the Littleton PD, because it was incredibly important. Hi Jim. Hi Chris. Yeah. Yeah, it's tough, and but it's still important. But you see, if there were more people that had the desire to act on their judgment instead of being so judgmental, this world would be an entirely different place, okay? So if one person just went out and made contact with one homeless person and tried to solve problems or work through things, that we wouldn't have as big of a crisis as we have. And it's just getting worse. And this winter is going to be so brutal that I'm probably not even going to have any money to deal with anything. And This nonprofit operates on private dollars. I don't partner with government. I don't beg government for permission. I don't seek out government grants because I'm not going to ask government for approval in the things I do. So that's just kind of how this nonprofit operates, and I just have to stick with it. Yeah, F the government. Indeed, and here's why. So let's do a little recap on the whole issue in case you're just tuning in. So back in June, on June 5th, a Saturday, I had re-upped my Planet Fitness membership after a hiatus from COVID because I wasn't going to wear a mask and work out. So I'm not paying for it. So they lightened up on the masks. So the very first day, I go back in there after at least 6 months of I think it was closer to 9 months that I'd not been there. I go in there on a Saturday. It's about 5 o'clock, a little after 5. And I say, hey, so I've got my app. I want to renew this. And they're like, okay, you know, at the desk, they want to take my picture for their computer system, which they've never done that before. And if this stream is getting interrupted or my Wi-Fi is not good and we're missing crucial pieces, please pipe in and let me know, okay? Please, because it's a YouTube issue. Okay, great, RP, thanks. So I go in there, get all that renewed. I work out, and I leave the facility at about 10 to 7, 5 to 7-ish, right in there, okay? And as I'm walking out the door, I thought I already had seen a couple cops out in the parking lot, vehicles, but I wasn't sure because I was way inside working out, and I didn't have my glasses on. So when I left, I saw at least one cop car. Thanks, Jim. And what I thought were 2 cops talking to a couple women. And there was a white car, and that's about as much as I could see, because still, I didn't have my glasses on, so I really couldn't see that well. So I walked to my car, which was about 50 feet away, and I stood at my car, and I kind of watched over there just to make sure it wasn't something I needed to record. And it didn't seem like it. I thought, oh, somebody probably had a fender bender or whatever. I get in my car, and I drive to a separate parking lot, which is in a different police jurisdiction than Littleton PD. It's the Inglewood PD. And let me just pipe in here just a tad bit about Inglewood. They're no better than Littleton, okay? I've had a lot of experiences with the Inglewood PD. Those of you that are following me have seen some of that. I just have not delved back into those issues over in Inglewood because I'm addressing other more important issues in Inglewood, like clearing all the warrants for the homeless that the Inglewood PD thought they would effectively issue citations to people for being on public property that included trespassing and unconstitutional area restrictions. So I've been, you know, eyeball deep with that in Inglewood. But Inglewood and Littleton and the Sheridan Police Department, yeah, thanks RP, have quite a cozy relationship, okay? And they're in communication, and their city councils work together with this tri-county or tri-city effort to solve homelessness, blah, blah, blah. They're not. They're trying to figure out how they can make municipal code to criminalize them. They claim that, you know, they want to connect them with resources, blah, blah, blah. And it's not true. So these 3 jurisdictions work very close together. So they're pretty much 3 peas in a pod. And no, they don't give a rat's ass about the homeless. They want them gone. They want to shift them all into Denver. Okay, so that's enough of that. I'll just keep going off on a tangent on that. So back to Planet Fitness, I leave. I go to King Soopers. Different jurisdiction, different business, everything. I'm in there just loading up my cart because I hate going to the grocery store. So I'm going to get my grocery shopping done. And I'm in there for over an hour. And I'm at the front of the store, and I'm about to go past the service desk and go down the beer aisle. I need some chips and possibly some summer shandies. And so I quick look up, and I see these 2 cops coming. I didn't even look at their faces. I just saw 2 cops. Apparently they'd just come in the entrance, and they were headed my way. But there was this little old lady right in front of me. and she kind of panicked when she saw the cops, right? So I pulled my cart behind her because I didn't know what she was going to do, or if I was going to need to help her. She was really struggling getting by, and I want to make sure she got by. She did. The cops walked right past me, and she goes on her way, and I don't look back. I don't look over my shoulder. I make my left down the beer aisle, and I'm going down to get something out of the chip aisle. And I thought, oh, okay, hold on. I want to see if they have summer shandies. They don't usually have them here. And I went to back up my cart, and I stepped back, and those two cops, presumably those same two cops, are standing right behind me. And I'm like, oh, shit, really? Whatever, I don't want to deal with this. And so I just go forward. I don't say anything. They don't say anything. They just stop dead in their tracks. Don't say excuse me, nothing. And so I'm pushing my cart about another 10 feet. Next thing I know, this jackass, tatted up, roided freak is grabbing my cart and telling me, hey, hang on. We need you to stay right here. No, what are you doing? Right? And he's like, we're checking something out. We're investigating something. I don't think he even said that. Bottom line is, if they'd had body cams, we could definitely go back and take a look at this. Because at this point, I've got my purse in my cart, I'm ready to finish my grocery shopping, and I want these fuckers to get out of my way. Well, as soon as I realized that he was using force to keep me from moving forward, I got my phone out and I started recording. And everybody has seen that video. Pretty much everybody. And if you haven't, it's on my channel. Clear back down in June. I uploaded it right away. Okay? And we all agree that they were idiots. We all agree that I really didn't have to entertain them with anything. We all agree I should have told them to kick rocks and move on. Well, here's the problem with that. I was really concerned something really bad was about to go down in the store. Remember, we had just had this King Super shooting. They were acting super shady. They were peeking around the corners, looking to see who might be around. I looked down the chip aisle. I saw some chick down there. I thought, holy shit, is she about to, pull out a gun, open fire on us, right? So I was a little bit, it was your fight or flight, okay? It kicks in, right? So you saw it, Chris. Beyond being unprofessional, here's a little bit of the background about why I engaged in some of that. Plus my work with the homeless. I wasn't sure if after listening to these idiots eventually accuse me of third-degree burglary, that they had some video evidence or some bullshit. I don't know. So I was pushing just a little bit for good reason. And it's a good thing I did, because guess what? It's all come full circle now, okay? So there is always a method to my madness, whether people agree with it or not. I'm not just your auditor, your First Amendment auditor that shows up with their phone to see how much fun they can have with cops that hate speech, okay? I'm a little more involved than that. And that's why I say I'm a well-rounded auditor, homeless advocate, but just simply, I am just an advocate, and I do my civic duty like everyone should do when shit hits the fan, okay? Stand up. Be a responsible citizen. Follow through with shit when it's wrong, when it's deceptive, when it's criminal, when it's lying. Do your part, okay? You don't, and again, my YouTube channel's been around since like 2009. I just applied for the monetization that I was able to get months ago, and I didn't want to go through all that because I don't give a shit. I don't need this channel to make a living, and I don't hold a grudge against people that do, right? I mean, if you're going to watch their content and, they get paid for it, whatever. I don't care. But because I have this nonprofit and we do talk about some activity with the nonprofit on this YouTube channel, I do need to generate the income if I can. So that's the scoop on that. But the cops, they just like to lump everybody into one group. You're all out to make money. You're just doing this to get famous, blah, blah, blah. No, I'm doing it for public awareness, and guess what? It's working. And I've never made a dime. And to this day, I still haven't made one red cent. So I will continue to use this YouTube channel to my advantage for public awareness. And if you don't like it, you're free to go bye-bye. Just like Commander Cooper had to do when he decided he wanted to turn into a lying dick. So, back to that interaction at King Soopers. You saw how all that went down. After that video ended, I went and found those two idiots after I made a couple phone calls because they didn't give me their cards. Remember? Now, no, I wasn't stupid enough to let them get away without getting their badge numbers, okay? They happened to be standing up at the checkouts. And, Bashard was guarding the door like the big hero that he is. And Rocha was off talking to some, looked like a front-end manager. And so I walked up to Bishard, or however the fuck you say his name. And I said, "Can I have your card, please?" "Oh, sure. Yeah, here you go. Thank you." "You're a fucking moron, you know that? And you're a fucking fat ass, and you ought to go get on the fucking treadmill before you get somebody killed out here trying to even do your fucking job. You suck. You're a dick. You're a fucking moron." I lit into him because I can. Now, mind you, I also looked around before I did this because I just want to make sure there were no children present. And there weren't. So I was ripping into him, and I then went and walked up to Rocha, and I said, "I need your card too." I don't have one." "All right, write your name and badge number on this one." And so he did, and I told him that he was a fucking moron too, that was about that. Okay, so I leave the store with no more issue. I look around out in the parking lot. They're not out there. I look around back over at Planet Fitness as I exit. They're not there. Whatever. I come home, and so I start, kind of studying the Littleton Police Department, because those are the things I do when shit like this happens, because it was a very, very bizarre interaction. And I see that they only have a process of submitting a complaint online. They don't outline their complaint process. They don't tell you how they're going to get in contact with you. They don't reassure you that you're going to get a copy of your submission when you file a complaint online, okay? So I'm thinking, no, I'm not going to use that process because I need more definition. So the next day, on Sunday, I call Planet Fitness right off the bat. And I talked to this nice girl, and I told her what happened because I wanted to talk to the manager. Well, her manager wasn't in, and she was going to let him know everything that happened, blah, blah, blah. And then she says, "Oh, we found a black backpack in the bathroom this morning." Or, "I found a black backpack." I said, "You did? Imagine that." "So has anybody contacted the police to tell them that this backpack has been located?" And she's like, "Well, I'm going to have to tell my manager." And blah, blah, blah. Okay, that's fine. I can respect that. The girl's doing a very good job trying to do her job. But that wasn't enough for me. So I get on the phone and I call to the Littleton PD and I ask to speak to the supervisor on duty. "That's okay, Ellie. Just getting, you know what most of the story is here." And so Officer or Corporal Jim Hanna calls me back. Jim Hanna has been on the Littleton Police Department for a long time, okay? I know of him. We've never met. I know of some of his interactions with people in the public school system, okay? And I've heard wonderful things about him. Okay, that's great. He's a nice guy. That doesn't mean he's a good cop, so whatever. But he gets on the phone, and he's just kind of downplaying it, "Oh, Roach is new, and Bashard's training him." And I'm like, you gotta be shitting me. My heart sunk to my feet when he said that, okay? I was like, oh boy, here we go. And so, Hannah didn't really offer to take formal complaint. He suggested that I go ahead and do it online, right? And that my complaint would go directly to a Commander Cooper. And that's all he knew. I thought, okay, well, we're going to see how this process works. So I filed an initial complaint using their online submission form, and just like I thought, I got no I got no confirmation that it had been received. When they ask you for your email address and all that kind of information, there's a reason that you should have a form that automatically generates a reply to someone's email that says, thank you, we've received your report, and here is the process, and here's what you can expect next. But no. But good for me, I copied and pasted it into a separate document, so I knew that I had record of it. Okay? So I get a call, I can't remember exactly when, a day or two later, from a Commander Cooper. And he wants to know if I'll come into the police department and do an interview with him. Why? I outlined for you in my complaint what the issue is. Well, we just like to be able to, connect with you and blah, 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 blah. No, I don't think so. But if you require some additional information, why don't you let me know what that is? And I'll go ahead and send that over to you via email. Well, why don't you just outline for us, what took place with the interaction? Blah, 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 blah. No, what Commander Cooper was doing, he thought he was going to be a hero. And he thought he was going to interject himself into this criminal investigation, right? I know what he was doing. Because they were hell-bent on, they were now hell-bent on making sure that they at least connected me with this crime. I'm not stupid, okay? I'm just not stupid. And Littleton PD and all you men in command staff, I am so grateful that you have finally figured out that this is an amateur hour and you're dealing with somebody that's 10 times smarter than you. Good job, fellas. So, I wrote a 3-page letter to Commander Cooper outlining everything. Okay? Everything. But I sent it over days later because I didn't have time, right? And I was busy. I was about to leave on a work trip for quite a while. This is important. You need to remember this. Remember, I was in Florida, okay? So, I didn't have a lot of time to invest after that. And I said to myself, okay, we're going to see how this plays out while I'm gone. And we'll see how much follow-up that I have to do when I get back, okay? So, you saw some videos of me in Florida, right? So this is clear back in June, right? I go to Florida. I'm in Arizona for a week in July, and then I'm back for a few days, and then I go to, I get Zaina's Jeep out of Impound, remember all that? And then I go to Florida, and I make a few videos in Florida. Well, lo and behold, through that process, I had sent Commander Cooper a couple of emails and asked him, when am I going to get a response for my complaint? What is the process even? I can't even understand your process. Am I going to get a determination letter? He never responded to any of that. And one of the emails that I sent him returned to me and said, I'm on vacation. And when I return to reality, I'll get back in touch with you. I mean, this guy is such a fucking condescending fucker. Okay, so there's that part, right? Well, it just so happens I'm in Florida, and I get an email with a determination letter from a Division Chief Gene Enley, right? Now remember, I've made a lot of these documents public, but as I get further into this explanation, if there's any document you want to see, let me know. I'll send it to you. But please know, it's fact, and I'm going to read the facts that are in writing for you, and I'm really hopeful that some of you might take some healthy action, okay? I want to stop and pause here and make sure everyone knows that I don't ever support doxing. I don't ever support sending outrageous emails that have no end goal, okay? If you want to get involved, do it productively. We can go back and forth about how the doxing thing works for some advocates. It doesn't work for me. I will never do it. And it puts innocent people that have no connection to anything that's going on. It disrupts their lives. So please don't do that. I want to make that clear. Okay? So back to this. I received this email with this determination letter, and it's dated July 1st. To Miss Regan Benson, and you've seen it, I think, in the community section of my channel. You can go see some of these documents. On 6/10, the Littleton Police Department received a written complaint from you regarding... No, it wasn't 6/10. It wasn't 6/10 at all. This happened on 6/5, and I sent in the complaint on 6/6. Your contact with Officers Bouchard and Rocha that occurred on 6/5 at 5050 South Federal Boulevard. The complaint was assigned to a supervisor for investigation and follow-up. Based on the investigation, it was determined that the officers acted appropriately and legally in regard to your temporary detention. However, Officer Bouchard, no grammar here, okay? No correct punctuation from the fine Division Chief Gene Enley. Eugene. His name is Eugene, everybody. Officer Bouchard should have been more forthcoming and clearer with you as to why you were contacted and detained. This incident was documented in his personnel file, and training was provided to him regarding this issue. Furthermore, this incident and the importance of clear communication with community members was reaffirmed with all patrol officers in the agency. I want to assure you the Littleton Police Department takes these types of allegations seriously, and a thorough review of this incident was completed. Should you have any further questions, you may contact me. Oh, boy. Did I have a list of questions and concerns? Boy, did I ever, because guess what? I already had a copy of the police report. And I had already read it at this point. Now, I wouldn't want to think that old Eugene Enley thought that I had left the state and had moved away to Florida and thought, screw this, send her the fucking letter. I mean, we don't have to deal with her. She's not even here, blah, 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 blah. And I'm going to tell you why I think that later on, okay? He thought that he was going to be rid of me, per se, but he wasn't. I immediately outlined in the email that he sent this letter to me in all of the problems that included Rocha lying in his report and Bouchard not even doing a report, okay? And why I had a lot of issue with that, and that I expected him to respond and address that. Well, he didn't. A week or so goes by, okay? Yeah, it's probably right around 10 days. I get back to Colorado, and I start making some videos. Oh, shit. She's back. Oh, boy. And she sent me an email that I didn't follow up on. What do I do now? Shit. I know. I'll call her and see if I can talk circles around her for a little while. I'll start out all cute and friendly and stupid and see if she'll connect with me, because I certainly will talk her out of taking this any further, because I realize now that I have wildly fucked up, and I might have to go back to the chief and tell him what I did. It gets good, okay? It gets really good. So he calls me, and he left me a voicemail. We played phone tag for a couple of days, right? I did a video about our phone call. Remember what I said in that video? He starts off wanting to know mostly where I live. Why did he want to know where I lived? He was really confused that the information they had was from an old residence in Jefferson County 10 years ago, okay? That's what they had in their system. You know why they had that in their system? Get this. You guys are going to love this. I had mentioned that I had contact with them years ago. I did. When I was stupid and naive and trusting, and I thought government was the solution to everything, I did something really dumb. Admittedly, I'm going to tell you straight up, the reason a lot of us do what we do is because we were naive and trusting and wanted to be cooperative, and we got really hosed in the process, right? So you start to figure out that government is wholly dysfunctional, with law enforcement backing it, and law enforcement being the most corrupt piece of government, okay? In my opinion. When we had first bought our house many, many years ago in the 90s, our children were small, and they were young. Three boys we successfully raised, my husband and I, who are now quite successful themselves, and probably no thanks to their parents, right, if you ask them. But they're all very well. My two oldest boys are married. My youngest one is not married, but they all have their lives mapped out perfectly, okay? Well, I stayed home most of the time with them, but sometimes I was dependent on my oldest son's help, and I had gone to the store, or I had gone somewhere, right? And I came home and I learned of an incident. I learned that a boy had come over to our house. Oh wait, no, that's a different one with the cops. Sorry, back up. Let me back up. I was at home. Hold on. I was at home and I was doing something. I can't remember what. My husband was in the basement or somewhere, and the boys were out back setting fires. That's what our kids were doing, okay? They were setting fires out in the backyard. You know, boys. Oh my God, get them on medication. They can't be doing stuff like this. They're going to kill the whole world. They're going to be horrible people. They're going to do stupid, mean, horrible things. Get your kids under control. No, I knew that wasn't the case at all. But me being a good suburban soccer mom, I said, you know what? You boys are going to learn a lesson. Get in the car. Guess where I took them? To the Littleton Police Department. Because when I was this young and stupid, I wasn't that young, but stupid and naive, okay? I didn't even know the police jurisdictions of where I lived. I knew we had purchased a house in unincorporated Jefferson County because I still was kind of smart about, wanting to ensure that I could live as free as possible, right? And I knew some things about being in unincorporated. Well, we were in the Jefferson County Sheriff's Department jurisdiction in unincorporated Jefferson County in Littleton, with a Littleton mailing address, right over by Columbine High School, okay? So I was going to be a good mom, and I was going to take those kids down there because I knew there was a fire station somewhere down there. Well, I ended up in the police department with my kids, okay? And I just asked somebody to really let them know what's going to happen if they keep starting fires, right? Because they need to understand that there's law enforcement, and you can go to prison, and all these things a good mommy would do. Showed them my ID. How stupid of me. That's why they have my address in Jefferson County that hasn't been current, and it's not even on my driver's license for the last 10 years, okay? That's how they had that address. So about that part, okay, that is why Eugene Enley was so confused about where I lived, right? He wanted to talk about my YouTube channel. He said that he'd, been watching it, and he wanted to make sure we were speaking the same language, right? Blah, 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 blah. I knew where he was going, okay? And then you heard a clip of that phone conversation. I posted that a couple days ago, and that's not even the whole conversation, okay? That was the most important part, because when I laid it out with Eugene that I wasn't okay with him allowing his officers to be out on the street that lie and don't do reports and write lies in the reports, and I told him I was going to file a complaint on him, he was just like, yeah, okay, whatever, blah, blah, blah. He didn't give a shit. And, then he started patronizing me and trying to tell me that he was sorry I felt that way. And then I kind of told him, don't ever say that to me again. And he came back with, well, I'm sorry that you think those are the facts. And ultimately, I wanted to really tell him off, but, I wanted to play along with his idiocy. So I just said, well, thank you very much for your time, and you have a really good day. Goodbye. And he said goodbye. He was recording that, and I asked him in the middle of that conversation if he was recording the conversation, because I heard his hand recorder beeping, and I heard him, he had me on speakerphone. And so he said on the record that he was the only one there, and that yes, he was recording the conversation. I didn't tell him to save it because I wanted to see what he was going to do. Okay, so we've watched the bullshit buildup, right? You watched me go in and make a records request. Well, I've got all those records, and boy, are they just ever telling. So again, the clerk oversaw the records request. One of the requests I did was specific to House Bill 19-1119 in Colorado. Okay? You're going to want to Google that. And people need to understand in this state right now that this law exists. And if you're truly an advocate to expose what's happening in police departments, you're going to use this law. And you're going to start doing records requests. This is why I insist that people file complaints with the Littleton Police Department or any other police department, especially now. Because once you file that complaint, you can request the investigation file to that specific internal affairs investigation, and every single thing about that investigation is to be in that file. Okay? People don't know that this law exists, and the Littleton PD obviously doesn't know the law exists either. Okay? I'm just saying. And I think they even had help from the city attorney on this, and they still couldn't get it right because the city clerk flat out told me that the reason this took so long, 3 whole days, not so long, she was all within the parameters of time. She could have asked for an extension. She could have kicked it out 7 more days, but she didn't. But she said the longest part of releasing all these records to you was attorney review. So this police department had plenty of guidance from the city attorney, had they wanted it, of course, right? But they probably know everything so much better than the city attorney, right? So, with House Bill 1119, you have the ability as an agency to release a summary to the file for the investigation. So a lot of these files are pretty hefty, right? Because if you're truly doing an honest investigation, there's a lot of things that can go into these internal affairs investigation files, okay? So, sure, that makes sense to release a summary to the requestor saying, this is what's in the file, these are the things here, blah, 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 blah. Then the requester has the ability to go back and request specific items, okay? It makes sense because it can get very time-consuming and costly for the requester. And in this case, I wasn't charged a dime, so there is that, okay? So from that bill, the agency can also just release the whole file, okay? Well, they released the whole file instead of the summary because they're idiots. And if they would have been thinking, they would have released the summary first. This is what I'm telling you guys. They thought it was amateur hour. So I got some things in this investigation file, okay? I also requested the entire roster for the Littleton Police Department with name, date of hire, position, and rate of pay. So now I know every employee in the Littleton Police Department. Well, I know their names, how much they make, and what their positions are. Why? Because it's public information. Isn't that fantastic? So we've got all that as well. Okay? One little thing we need to talk about first was the actual solving of the crime. Okay? In that police report is this whole dialogue by a Detective Pinover of the Littleton Police Department. Okay? And I gotta read it to you. Detective Pinover contacted, hold on, let's start with page 7 at the bottom here. This is where the Detective Pinover supplemental report starts, okay? And I paid for this, so don't go requesting it. If you want it, I'll send you a copy of it. If you don't trust me, go ahead and pay them and get a copy of your own. But I have it. So on June 7th, okay, Detective Brett Pinover, badge number 1502 of the Littleton Police Department, Criminal Investigations Division, was assigned follow-up investigation on this case regarding a theft. On June 9th, he reviewed the case file for this case and contacted the victim per her phone number. The victim stated she spoke with Planet Fitness following the theft of her property and was informed her backpack was recovered in the women's locker room the following day, on 6/6. She stated that the following items were recovered: a backpack, house keys, workout gloves, ankle straps, phone charger, AirPod charging case. Okay? Then she went on to state that the following items were still missing, even though these items weren't included in some of these items weren't included in the original report. A black wallet containing driver's license, 1 debit card, 1 credit card, truck keys, 2 of those, and a key fob, Ray-Ban sunglasses, her Beats Studio 3 headphones. Yeah, she did say that those were in the initial report. But she added some clothes and a makeup bag. Right? Detective Pinover contacted Planet Fitness via phone number, blah, 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 and spoke with manager Will Hain. You remember Will from Planet Fitness. Yeah. Will stated that they should be able to access surveillance footage for the incident, and he would forward the footage to Detective Pinover when it is available. Very important. Detective Pinover contacted King Soopers Asset Protection Specialist Mike Davis via phone number, blah, blah, blah. Mike stated he would let Detective Pinover know when footage of the King Soopers transactions was available. June 10th. Detective Pinover received surveillance footage from Will at Planet Fitness for this case. June 12th, Detective Pinover received surveillance screenshots from Mike at King Soopers for this case. June 16th, Detective Pinover reviewed King Soopers screenshots received from Mike for this case. In the screenshots, Detective Pinover observed an unidentified female suspect using Christine's credit cards. The screenshots showed the female completing several transactions before leaving the store. At 16:34, that's 4:30, okay, Christine, the victim, enters the gym front doors and goes straight to the check-in desk. Remember what time I told you I got to Planet Fitness? It was 10 after 5. Christine appears to check in and walks back towards the locker room. At 16:35, Christine enters the locker room. At 16:37, 3 minutes later, female suspect, seen in King Soopers screenshots, enters the gym front doors and goes to a silver table where she appears to be looking through her bag. 16:38, female suspect walks to the check-in desk and appears to attempt checking in. The female suspect speaks with an employee for a minute before walking back towards the locker room. 16:39, Christine exits the locker room. 16:40, female suspect enters the locker room. 17:05, female suspect exits the locker room and goes towards the front doors. Now, that was 25 minutes of time that the suspect spent in that locker room, because it seems like Christine forgot to lock her shit up. And criminals kind of watch stuff so they can go victimize people. 17:05, female suspect exits locker room and goes towards the front doors. 17:05 and 14 seconds, female suspect approaches the check-in desks and appears to talk to an employee. 17:05 and 29 seconds, the female suspect exits the gym through the front doors. This thief was gone, long gone, with her shit before I ever walked in the door. Before I ever walked in the door at Planet Fitness. While I was working out, the suspect was over at King Soopers using the credit cards. Duh. Detective Pinover received a phone call from LPD Records, this is Lakewood now, and was informed that the Lakewood Police Department Detective Sean Templeton was requesting a copy of this report. Detective Pinover contacted Detective Templeton, who stated Lakewood PD had arrested a female, and the name is blacked out. Why? I don't know. Why would they black out the accused? Why would they black their information out of this report, but not the victim? Do you know, by law, they're required to black out victims' information, and they didn't do it. They are so stupid. They are stupid, okay? This is why they can't be trusted. So they black out this person that they arrested in a stolen vehicle, and she was in possession of Christine's driver's license along with credit cards belonging to the victim. Using an online law enforcement database, Detective Pinover located a booking photograph, and upon comparing the photograph with the surveillance footage from King Soopers and Planet Fitness, all images appeared to be of the same person. Detective Templeton requested copies of this report and LPD case, blah, 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 to file in conjunction with his case. And that's it. Littleton didn't press charges on her. I think. I don't know. I'm going to have to go dig down a rabbit hole with Lakewood and pull the case. I guarantee you they're not going to give it to me because it's likely still an active investigation because they haven't completed that either. I could potentially do that, but let's just throw that out. And let's talk about the stupidity of what went down in King Soopers. Now, remember, this is from the report that the cops wrote. Remember, Bouchard never even mentioned that I existed, that he had contact with me. He wrote nothing, not one single word. Here's what Rocha wrote. While at the King Soopers, I observed a female subject who I recognized from the picture and the description provided. I spoke to Regan and advised her of the incident. He did? At what point did he advise me of that incident? Because he didn't say one word to me as Bouchard was physically stopping me from continuing my shot. He didn't say one word to me. He lied. During my contact, she got furious because she felt she was being accused. How does he know how I felt? This is the thing with law enforcement training. If you cannot write objectively with the facts instead of subjectively with your feelings, you are going to be a horrible, horrible fucking cop. And you are going to be extra horrible on the stand with shit like this. Any command staff anywhere knows this, okay? And here's the other kicker. What I learned from the employee database about Rocha, he's a Class 2 police officer in Littleton. So he comes to Littleton with either some experience or some education that put him in the classification of they go from 5 to 1, 5 being the lowest, 1 being the highest, and then a master police officer. Guess who's a master police officer? Just guess. Please type it in the comments. Just guess who's a master police officer. And that master police officer makes in excess of $91,000 a year. That's his base salary. That's his base salary. Okay? So, again, Rocha, during my contact, she got furious because she felt she was being accused. Well, first of all, I didn't get furious at all. You saw the video. What you didn't see was their contact that went on for probably a minute or less prior to me recording, because remember, they're sure as shit not going to record anything, because then they'd have to tell the truth. Okay? Rocha goes on. I advised Regan. I just wanted to ask her some questions, and she became defensive. First of all, why the fuck are you using my first name? It's Miss Benson. Anytime you deal with any females, you jackass, show some respect. I asked her if she was at Planet Fitness, and she said yes, in quotes. The word yes, in quotes. Regan said she saw us talking to the victim. No, I didn't. I never said I saw you talking to the fucking victim. I made it very clear that I didn't know who the hell you were talking to as she left the gym. I asked Regan if she took a backpack or if she saw anyone take a backpack, and she said no. In quotes. The word no, in quotes. That's it. That's all he wrote in this entire report. If you go to this incident report at the beginning, I'm listed as the only named suspect. The only named suspect. There are some other names on this report because the master police officer, Bashard, I guess he went on some wild goose chase about some car that he thought belonged to some boyfriend of a girl that might have had that credit card. So he went over to some car wash and he talked to somebody there, and so he put all these people in that report. He named all of them as involved parties as well. But I am the only named suspect. And he doesn't have to write a report. He doesn't have to write a report that he physically detained me for a criminal investigation? Really? Think about that. Okay. So, blah, blah, blah. That's all just nonsense. Okay. So, now, on to the records that I received when I asked for the investigation files specific to this internal affairs investigation. Well, guess what I received? A file on me. That's right. This investigation file has a YouTube video list. Now remember, the investigation was complete a long time ago. They're keeping documentation on me in this investigation file. They have a list of all my YouTube videos that have occurred well after this investigation had been resolved and completed. They have email communication that they're having internally. Interestingly, what they don't have in this file are the email communications that I sent to Commander Cooper, the 3-page letter that Commander Cooper required from me to complete his internal investigation. What else isn't in there? It's all the emails. So, but they have internal emails with each other because you know what they're trying to do? They're trying to project and deflect from their fuck up. But here's the other piece of this that is most concerning. They're still investigating me. That's exactly what they're doing. This investigation file is active. The internal affairs investigation file is still active, and they released it. All you got to do is look at all the dates on these documents. Missing the video that he took of me. Well, technically, that would have been after the investigation was complete, right? But why did he decide to write a summary of that, right? So he had to write an explanation as to why the entirety of that video didn't exist the other day that he took of me and Mexican long hair as we were there. Remember him standing there taking all that video? Yeah, guess what? He only had 13 minutes of that. Isn't that fascinating? Yeah, that didn't make it into the investigation. Actually, I take that back. Yes, it did. It did make it into there. Ellie, I'm glad you pointed that out, and I need to correct myself. It was in there, just not the entirety of it, okay? So that, again, to my point, they're still building up some sort of investigation on me. So am I still being criminally investigated for this third-degree burglary that Detective Pinover effectively solved? And one day I called and I talked to Joanne. Remember Joanne? She's real nice, records lady behind the window. And I asked her the question about, why hasn't Littleton pressed charges on this individual? Oh, well, we didn't get verification that it was the same person that Lakewood arrested, that we thought took the credit card. Well, that's funny because Pinover was able to identify her in the video. So there's some hanky shit going on here, and perhaps they are still trying to connect me to this crime. Isn't that fascinating? Even though they have no evidence of anything, they're still building this internal investigation file on me. But let's talk about what they released as far as how they handled their investigation of their officers. You guys, if you were watching that video that Mexican Longhair published, you heard Commander Cooper trying to explain their system, right? They have a system. It's called, what the hell was that called? RP, what was that called? Blue something or other. I'll come across it. But they clearly have adopted this computer system that their hokey-ass policy from Kalea, remember the Commission on Accreditation of Law Enforcement Agencies that produces policies for police departments that don't know how to run, and they pay them to accreditate them and tell them that they're doing a good job. This place has never been doing a good job. So they implemented this system, okay? And this is what it produced on their notes. This is so, so very important, you guys, okay? It says, involved citizen, Regan Mary Benson. Yes, that is my middle name, Mary. Quite contrary. My grandma's name was Mary. She had 15 children. Actually, 17. Mary, quite contrary. So anyway, I'm the involved citizen for the complaint. My role is complainant. And it says charges against citizen in relation to the incident. It says no criminal charges. And then it blacked out. Then they blacked out my information that they had. Right? Okay. That's funny. From, like, that had to be, that's going on 20 years ago, by the way. That was a long time ago, you guys. And then they have employees involved. Officer Luke Bishit. Just kidding. Bishard. Employee's current info is that his division is in patrol. He's on Unit Watch 2, and he's on Team 4. And his badge number is 1202. His role is primary. His division is patrol. Blah, 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 blah. But here's where it gets interesting. It says age, and it blacks out his age. They redact his age. Years of employment. It says 8. Well, that's funny, because the employee roster that I have is just like I thought. According to his badge number, he's been there for 10 years. Huh, so I don't even know how long their fucking employees have been there in this system that's supposed to be of accountability. Okay. Allegations. Class 5. This is important. Mexican Longhair. Do you remember the classifications of complaints that were being explained to us by Commander Cooper the other day? How Class 5 is the lowest, just menial, dumbest complaint that a citizen would ever make on a law enforcement officer. It got classified as a class 5. And it says open allegation, no finding. It says oral counseling, days and hours suspended, 0. That's what that says. Then it goes on to Officer Felix Rocha. He's in Patrol Division, Watch 1, badge number 2103, and he hasn't been there for a year at all, so they don't have any length of employment for him. They redacted his age. And then it goes on to witnesses 22. So this is interesting. Look at this part. Witnesses 22 blacked out. Redacted. There would be no reason to redact that information. Okay? So now let's go on to the summary. This gets so good. Now, it doesn't tell you who's writing the summary. You have to read the whole thing and then figure out how it went through the chain of command to figure out who was writing it. But let's just make this clear up front. This summary that I'm about to read you is being provided by Brian Rousey. You remember Brian Rousey? Yeah. King Soopers? The guy that I went and made the complaint or the commendation with? I knew he was involved because he's named on the case report as approving. His involvement type is approving. Brian Rousey, right there, you see it. I wasn't sure at what level he was involved in, so wasn't that so awesome that we got to see Brian Rousey in action at the King Soopers, telling that man that he couldn't go into King Soopers, playing private security for King Soopers, threatening to cite Will for doing his fully protected activity. Brian Rousey, he was the one that approved this case report from the Planet Fitness debacle. But now let's listen to his summary about the complaint. On June 5th, at approximately 6:30, Littleton police officers Luke Bouchard and Felix Rocha were dispatched to Planet Fitness, located at blah blah blah, regarding a theft. They contacted the reporting party victim, who's redacted now, on scene and quickly learned the crime being reported was in fact a third-degree burglary, identity theft, and theft. Let me read that to you again. They quickly learned the crime being reported was in fact a third-degree burglary, identity theft, and theft. The victim reported her backpack with numerous personal items had been stolen from a locker inside the fitness locker room. Still, everybody just fails to mention that she forgot to lock her shit up. She stated she had already confirmed 4 purchases had already been made on her stolen debit card and 1 charge on her stolen credit card. This was all going down at 6:30. Okay. 3 of the charges were located at King Soopers, located at 5050 South Federal, which shares a parking lot with Planet Fitness. You dumb shit. They don't share a parking lot, and they're not even in the same fucking jurisdiction. God, this guy is stupid. The other charges were also at business in the immediate area of the Planet Fitness. Officer Bouchard and Rocha were provided with a description of a suspicious female who was observed by the victim inside Planet Fitness during the time her items were stolen. This girl had fucking been robbed blind long before, but it was me that she saw. Pay very close attention to this next sentence. They were then able to view video footage and identify the female, later positively identified as Regan Mary Benson, as described by the victim, with assistance from Planet Fitness employees. Ta-da! Liar. Now, if you want to go back and watch that video with Bashard and Rocha and King Supers, you'll hear those two dipshits say that, no, we can't get the video, we can't get it here or there, no, we don't have video. And that was thanks to me using my brain to get them on the record to say if they had accessed any video. Hello? These fucking liars. Rousey goes on to say, the officers responded to the King Supers to attempt to obtain information from store employees about the fraudulent transactions. Oh, hold up. That's not what Bashar said. He said he'd been in there looking for me the whole goddamn time, and they didn't expect me to walk in front of them. Liars. About the fraudulent transactions with the victim's stolen debit cards. While inside the store, they observed Benson, whom they had seen in the Planet Fitness video, and matched the description provided by the victim and contacted her. Officer Rocha noted in his written report, when they contacted Benson and began asking her questions, she became furious and defensive. She informed them she had been inside Planet Fitness and had seen them speaking with the name of the victim when she left. No, I didn't. She stated she did not steal a backpack or see anyone else steal the backpack. There were no further details or mentioning of this contact in the officer's reports. You hear that? This dumb fucker, Rousey, put in writing that there were no further details or mentioning of this contact in the officer's reports. They are getting away with this on a regular basis, and they have the full support of command staff, all the way up to the division chief. I'm going to read that to you again. Brian Rousey's thorough investigation of this incident has him writing this in the investigation. There were no further details or mentioning of this contact in the officer's reports. On June 11th, remember this was back on June 5th that Rousey did all this bullshit. On June 11th, I was provided with a written complaint authored by Benson from Commander Trent Cooper, asking me to review the complaint. I was also notified Benson had recorded the contact and had loaded the video onto YouTube. Now, Commander Cooper, why were you telling me that you were investigating my complaint? You dirty, filthy, stinking liar, you. Damn it. I wonder why I dismissed you so abruptly the other day. It's because I knew you were lying before you ever even showed up. And by the way, nobody asked you to fucking come out there. You interjected yourself. And that's the reason you got shown the door. You came out acting like a dick, so I treated you like a dick. I make no apologies for it, sir. So, Brian Rousey goes on to say, I reviewed the complaint, the inclusive case report, so now there is a case report, even though he was fine with it earlier, that there was no mentioning of any of this, and the mentioned YouTube video. These mentioned items were all attached to this entry. So now they're having to start the documenting process through this system, through this computer system, right? He goes on to say, this is Brian Rousey still, in Benson's written complaint, she objects to the justification of being contacted and detained by Officer Bashard and Rocha. She states she was told by Officer Bashard she was not free to go. She also states Officer Bashard kept getting elevated in his voice and posturing in his physical demeanor of attempting to convey his intention to be a physical force. Those were all my words. Yes, good job, dipshit. What about the rest of what I said? Ah, you forgot to include that. She notes it was at this time she began recording the contact on her cellular phone. She stated, now let's get back into our feelings. Let's talk about projection for deflection. This is the purpose for that particular training that they give cops for 6 weeks on how to project and deflect. She stated after the initial contact and the recording ended, she told Officer Bashard, quotes, "You're a fucking idiot. You need to go back to cop school. You're a fat ass and you need to get on the treadmill before you get somebody killed trying to even do your job. Fuck you, you idiot." And all he kept saying was thank you, thank you, thank you very much, and rambling on about how he was just doing his job, all the while trying to talk over me and louder than me, end quote. Yeah, I did. That's exactly what I did. So, then she states she walked directly up to Officer Rocha and requested his information and told him in part, quote, "I also called him a fucking idiot several times, to which he too kept replying, thank you, end quote." Yeah? So what? Nothing else in here about the officers. Not a fucking thing. After I completed my review, I spoke with Officer Bashar and Officer Rocha regarding the incident. We debriefed the entire event and together came up with alternative methods to be more concise when detaining individuals as we, as law enforcement, conduct criminal investigations and contact suspects of criminal activity. Now you remember the determination letter. Remember what we read in there. I'm waiting for the part to see the letter that was put into Bashard's file. I'm waiting for the part that shows what training he received. Well, his direct supervisor hasn't done any of that yet, so let's go on to see what happens next. Here's some more projection and deflection by Brian Rousey. Officers Bashard and Rocha were investigating a felony burglary and identity theft investigation and obtained a suspect description from 2 individuals. They were never in the report. The victim and the fitness business employee. Really? Who are all these people? While conducting follow-up on their investigation, they inadvertently located and eventually detained the suspect after she asked to leave and was not allowed to leave by officers. The suspect, they admit, I was the suspect, was informed of the investigation and told she was being detained and not free to leave while they verified facts of the case. She was eventually informed she could leave. In her written statement, she states, on her volition, recontacted, here we go again, both Officer Bashard and Rocha and demeaned them while using profanities. And the only response back by the officers was thank you. Projection and deflection for feelings. So what about your officers? Because by now, if you've done all this review, Brian Rousey, and you've looked at the video, you know they're fucking lying. How about that? Any mention of that? Still, no mention. Based on the information available to me at this time, I find Officers Bashard and Rocha did not violate policy or procedure while conducting the investigation or interacting with Regan Benson. Annie forgot to put in here, and I went ahead and said, it's cool that you don't do reports for the suspect that I, the supervisor, right here, put in writing, cleared you for making contact with the suspect, but you don't need to say anything or write any reports, guys. It's okay because I'm a fucking dumbass and I need to get on the treadmill because I can't even think either, so holy shit did I even read what I just put in writing. That's Brian Rousey. So let's go on to the next step. Oh, and then it outlines that the status was completed and it's not sustained according to Brian Rousey, right? It's not a thorough investigation. See, these guys are so stupid. Their definition to a thorough investigation is just get as many eyes on it as you can, because then it makes it thorough. Boy, Cooper and Emily go on to really fuck up too. So let's talk about that. So yeah, anyway, that's Brian Rousey. And guess what? It just goes right to Commander Trent Cooper. This is the last page. Who approves it and sends it on over to Eugene Enley, who approves it. Well, hold up, everybody. Now that I've thrown all my papers into the wind, we gotta go back to Division Chief Eugene Enley's letter. Well, how does he know that a letter was placed in his file? And what training was he given? Guess what? This is all subject to public disclosure, dumb shits. You didn't know that, did you? Well, now you do. You all are fucking liars, and none of you can be trusted. Not a single one of you. And I'm guessing not even the chief. Because you heard Commander Cooper, if you were watching the video, as he's explaining their process to us, and I asked him, Are you the commander of internal affairs? No. I'm the commander of patrol, so of course I would investigate the complaint. Well, wait a minute. Who's the commander of internal affairs? That's Commander, what was his name? I wrote it down. Enley? That's another whole commander I've never even seen. Heard his name. He wasn't involved in any of this. And I never got any emails from him, phone calls, nothing. But he's the commander of internal affairs. Okay. So Cooper goes on then to say that the chief is ultimately overseeing internal affairs. Really? Well, wait a minute. I'm just guessing that the chief doesn't even show up for work. Just a wild guess. Because these guys are so fucking out of touch with what's going on in their agencies because of dipshits like this. Because they get over on the general public fucking constantly. They throw complaints in the trash. There is no process, and you people are lying. And you're using force on people. And you're also doing other things to be rumored as fact because you won't complete an investigation. Anybody, go do a Google search on the police chief of Littleton. He came on in 14, okay? And in 16, boy, they had a hell of a problem over there in Littleton. And you can Google that story. A woman, very sad, tragic situation. Her husband or boyfriend murdered her in a domestic violence situation because an officer failed to make an arrest and file for a restraining order. Guess what? Guess what I learned about that case? It was in the news in 2016. That was a long time ago, you guys. It's all went away. That officer that's in that story that was accused of all of that, he's since been promoted to a sergeant. Yeah. So, wow, pretty powerful stuff, huh? So I'm left to conclude what I knew about their pattern of lying. I've talked to some people out in the public who have had some stories, and I have encouraged them to file complaints. And this was in the past. This wasn't just recently. And they told me they weren't going to do it because it didn't matter. I explained to them why it does matter. Told them, of course, that I would help them. I had one really concerning interaction with a woman a while back who had some things to say about her contact with one of their police officers. And of course she's scared. So I encouraged her as well to think about how I could support her. So I hope she's watching, because this is why there needs to be people like myself and others that will make the time for justice, for real justice, okay? These guys have been doing this stuff for a long time, and they've been getting away with it. My case is minor, absolutely. It's just, it would seem so trivial, right, to the average person. But those of us that understand law enforcement, their actions, their behaviors, their patterns, we know when something's up. We know. Because we were once there too, where we thought we were doing the right thing, and we weren't. And we tried to utilize process, and we saw how that process didn't work. But here's the good news in all of this. In just less than 1 week, look what we saw. Look what we saw in our interactions of happening upon that situation at King Soopers, happening upon that little interaction with that Sergeant D. Scott, which, by the way, I have his salary too. I actually made a note of that, and I'm going to go back into the video and highlight that. He makes big bucks. That guy's been there a long time. And we had that little interaction. We saw Cooper be just a complete blithering idiot. And he generated those emails, those internal emails. I don't know if he thought he was covering his ass or just continuing to add to my investigation file. You like how, yeah, we talked about how how he was far more in tune with how polite the gentleman was that was with me. Mexican long hair, you're a gem. I'm keeping you around. That was a good day. And we saw a lot that day. And then we saw a lot. I saw a lot the next day when I just happened to be going by King Soopers. And then we saw another King Soopers event the next day where the King Soopers was magically allowing all of that protected activity to go on in aggressive fashion. And then you saw me go make a commendation about Officer Will Lewis. Right now, you guys, he's the only hope that we've come across. He is literally the only hope in that entire organization right now. Okay? I hope there's more. Maybe there's more. I'd like to come in contact with more. I don't know. We'll see. You never know when we're going to show up, or you never know what we just happened upon, right? King Snooper. Yeah, what a trip, huh? So let's say, for instance, that they were just using the police department to enforce or try to enforce using force against someone, just someone that they didn't want there. For instance, Will. They didn't like him. Remember, somebody had called during my live stream and talked to a manager by the name of Paul, who said that he was asked to leave because he had a bad attitude. Isn't that interesting? That a place of business would use an entire police department to try to enforce unlawful force of trespassing. Because all of those cops, except Will Lewis, threatened to charge him with something. Every one of them. Jones, Atkinson, whatever her name was, which, by the way, I didn't find her on my roster. I got to figure out if she got married and there was a name change or something. Remember the field training lady, the blonde, that was, putting the pressure on Will to make sure that Will was being a good cop while she's over there being a shitty cop? Yeah, she was nowhere to be found on that roster. I got to figure out what's going on with her. Yeah, I won't take it down. It'll stay up. So, all of those cops, except Will Lewis, threatened criminal action against that other gentleman, who just happened to have the first name of Will as well, who was doing absolutely nothing wrong, and exercising his civic duty to petition taxpayers to put an initiative on our ballot. It's protected activity. And apparently, either King Soopers just magically figured that out really super quick, or they already knew that, and they were selectively picking who could be there. I don't want to do the whole race baiting thing, but it bothers me tremendously. And I told Will after I made that live stream, he didn't really want to talk anymore. I just felt like there was something more going on, because this was his third interaction with the police. And I'm really saddened to say that deep in my heart, I think there was some very pointed discrimination happening there. King Soopers knows better. That's why they brought that sign out. That's why King Soopers has published those signs. You saw that sign multiple times in that video that said, whatever, don't quote me verbatim, King Soopers doesn't endorse this petitioning activity, and we apologize for any inconvenience. They would not print a sign like that and use it if they knew that they could lawfully and legally have someone removed from their property. And those 3 women had plopped that sign out there that day I came up on Will. And then the police department, this is why you guys are stupid. Sergeant Rousey, none of you should have been on that call at all. This is how you get yourselves in situations that end up in court, in lawsuits, because you're doing shit you have no business doing. And this Rousey fully allows all of his officers that he's in charge of to not even write reports. Littleton, you're itching for a massive, massive lawsuit. And you're going to get it. Because you keep this up, you're going to do it to the wrong person. And I actually hope that Will does follow up on some of the things that I told him to do or suggested. I didn't tell him. We had a very heart-to-heart about what had gone on, and he was pretty mortified with how much defending of himself he was having to do. So you've got cops on calls like, you know, the Planet Fitness King Soopers debacle. You've got cops on call doing shit like that over at King Soopers to Will. Littleton is plenty staffed. They don't have any shortage of officers. So they need to start getting rid of some people. I'm not really sure why they have these division chiefs. I'm not sure why they have all these commanders. They're fucking worthless. And they lie, and they support lying. They're not out on the streets. Get rid of them. How many millions of dollars is that going to free up to go hire more cops and put the good cops like Will in a sergeant position? I'm telling you right now, that guy, he should be a sergeant, because he was 10 times smarter than any of them dumb fuckers there. And he was exercising it. He was on the burner to have to impress this stupid woman that's training him. I go back and watch those videos if you want to. So this whole thing has come full circle. It's come full circle. And I'm glad that I took the time to dive down into it, because this organization is in really bad shape. Really bad shape. They have no defined process for handling citizen complaints, and they're throwing this shit in the trash. Guaranteed. And lying. Straight up. It's in writing. It's in video. They are caught dead in their lies. They are lying. They are dangerous cops. These are all those red flags we talk about. Had someone done something about these red flags before these idiot cops went out and murdered someone? These guys are ticking time bombs, because they'll get away with anything. They have no body cams. We don't have a DA out here that gives 2 shits about holding cops accountable to anything. Well, we haven't. Maybe we do now. I doubt it. You can't really prove these things beyond a shadow of a doubt when there's no evidence, can you? This is scary shit. It's really scary shit. And my talk at City Council, let me make one other thing clear. You heard me tell that mayor that he should apologize. Maybe I did or didn't in my speech when I talked for the 3 minutes. I don't know if I did or not. Anyway, you heard what I said to the mayor about how ridiculous his response was to the gentleman that sent him an email about what was going on in his police department. Well, the next day I did follow up with an email to him, and I copied all of the city councilors. And I said to the mayor, I said, you need to apologize. Maybe we're having a bad day. We all have bad days. And so, do the right thing, essentially. And I told, his city councilors, his peers, that they certainly could hold him accountable to doing that, because they're supposed to be acting as a professional group of people. You don't get to determine how you're going to respond to us as the community on a choice of whether or not you're going to be professional or not, and then not expect to get your shit handed to you when you're not. Okay? So we, the citizens, us smart ones, know how to conduct ourselves perfectly fine. And I have done that the entire time through all of this interaction with the Littleton Police Department. I've done this before in numerous situations with the Jefferson County Sheriff's Department. How do you think I learned about the police? It was our time in unincorporated Jefferson County, the horrible, horrible shit that Sheriff's Department did to my kids, my family, me. They got involved in my mom's death over probate issues, took her property from me. Trust me, I have been through every scenario and gamut on the law enforcement spectrum. I've been assaulted. I've had guns pulled on my children. Okay, listen. You're not dealing with an amateur, Littleton. I'm going to continue to peel the layers apart until you clean up your shit. Because if I start this and walk away from it, somebody is going to be injured or killed because of you fucking fools. You don't like it? You don't like being put in the spotlight? You don't like having national attention on yourselves? You better ask yourselves why. Why do we have national attention on us right now? It's because we fucking suck. And we better do something. Because it's only going to get worse. We're only going to continue to bring more attention to us as we think we're above, and we're so arrogant that we can brush people under the rug, lie to them, ignore them. No, you're not, Littleton PD. And this shit does roll downhill. And city manager, I don't know who you are yet. Mr. Mayor, I don't know how many conversations you're having with your city manager about how your city manager is holding your police chief responsible, but I'm guessing 0. Do yourselves a favor. Go ask Westminster how that worked out for them when they decided to get cocky and arrogant and lie about murdering Timmy Henley. Go ask Littleton how that worked out. Google some events going on in Littleton right now. Okay? So, while Littleton, or in Westminster, Google events going on in Westminster. While Littleton is quite a bit smaller than Westminster, they're not immune. Okay? And I know that they have a faction, a large faction of an elderly population that isn't, paying much attention. And if they are, it's for the wrong reasons when it comes to any accountability in government. They're more concerned about their senior resource services and access to the library and making sure they pay their taxes on time. And occasional, I think you'll get a dispute from a senior citizen who wants to dispute, property taxes or why they're not getting their exemptions and stuff like that. So, so Ellie, if you want this in their files, you have to now file a complaint with Internal Affairs Department. Well, they don't have a department. They don't even have a department. So, to be honest with you, I think the best way to file your complaint against the Littleton Police Department is to go to the city council meeting and put it on the record. Honestly, I mean, that's some bad shit that you know, I have to tell people to do that, but they are so bad and dysfunctional. If somebody does want help right now filing a complaint, I mean, I gladly do it, and we'll go through this process, but the average person cannot handle this. They're not going to know how to review policies. They're not going to understand, you know, processes. Nobody can ask for the average person to wade through this kind of bullshit. The average person cannot do it, okay? They need help. And so really right now, I wouldn't tell anybody to blindly file a complaint. I just wouldn't, because they may forget that one step about copying and pasting the submission online. They may not be comfortable recording all of these interactions. I mean, it's a horrible thing that you may have to go stand in front of the general public and put that stuff on the record at a city council meeting, but honestly, they're so dangerous. I couldn't recommend any other way if the average person wanted to do that without any help, you know. So they don't have an IA department. They have no impartial chain of command, okay? We know they investigate themselves, and they clear themselves, and they lie through the process, whatever they got to do. Remember, I was talking about the internal affairs process in Denver with the Office of the Independent Monitor? You guys, I have a complaint in there right now, okay? I don't talk about this stuff all the time because I'm busy. I'm either pulling records or helping the homeless, and I'm so buried. Look how much time that I've just put into this, and I need to. So I've had to put some other things on the back burner. But listen, when these cops in Denver, when they're doing shit that is a policy violation, I'm not going to mess around with it. And one of them is their body cams. Their policy on those body cams is very clear when they are supposed to have them on. Okay? Everybody has just kind of disconnected with the fact that law enforcement agencies are now the holy grail because they've got body cams, so now we're going to get the truth and we're going to get the honest version of the facts and what happened. People, wake up. They still have the ability to turn those things on and off as they choose, okay? So while body cam footage is a very good thing, it's still up to us to hold them accountable to using them. So yes, that means if you're a true auditor, I'm not your First Amendment auditor. I am your true auditor. I'm going to go in and I got to pay to look at body cam footage that should have been captured when police are interacting with my homeless community. Okay? And I've caught them several times not activating their body cams. Therefore, yes, their claims that they're being harassed by the police are very valid. Okay? And so I've got a complaint that's many months old right now. Many months. And in fact, while I was in Florida and I had received that email from Eugene, who likely thought that I had left the state of Colorado, and he thought he was probably safe to send that to me and that I wouldn't be back, or I was reminded that I needed to follow up with the Office of the Independent Monitor because I didn't have a determination letter on a complaint for officers threatening a criminal investigation against some homeless people, and their body cams were supposed to be activated. So I think this complaint was clear back from March, April, and there's still no determination. Could be even earlier than that. I need to go back and double check. I knew it had been many months. So I sent them an email and they said no, that complaint is still being investigated. So here's what happens in that office. The Office of the Independent Monitor allows the Denver Police Department to do their investigations. We citizens have the ability to file our complaint with the Office of the Independent Monitor, who then immediately forwards that complaint to the Denver Police Department. Boom! You got a level of transparency and security for your complaint. It has been received, and that office has made sure that the Denver Police Department has received it. Gee, wow. Could that have been a problem in Denver? Yeah, it was. They were throwing complaints away too, because Denver at one point had the ability to investigate themselves and clear themselves, and people were dying and horrible things were happening and there was no accountability. So yes, next thing you know, they're getting body cams and an Office of the Independent Monitor. So that office allows them to do their investigation, and then they send their findings back to the Office of the Independent Monitor. Okay? The Independent Monitor then reviews all of that. And then they have some internal policies that allow them to be able to say to the Denver Police Department, you may need to reinvestigate this, or why does this discrepancy exist? So this was all formed a long time ago. The Office of the Independent Monitor has that ability to oversee those complaints with the Denver Police Department. Okay? We just got, or I don't even know if we have a new one yet. Mitchell left to go. He was awesome. He oversaw that whole department. He went to LA to essentially overhaul the LA Sheriff's Department because he's been so fantastic here in Denver. So we lost that independent monitor. We're in the process of getting another one, but there are still attorneys in that office. There are monitors that review all of those complaints. So when I asked them if they had a determination letter, they said no, it's still under investigation. That tells me that they found all the discrepancies in Denver's in Denver's determination, because I'm guessing the cops said, "Oh no, we there was no reason for us to activate our body cams. We were just stopping by and saying hi. We were just there to say hi." I guarantee you. So I'm hopeful that the Office of the Independent Monitor is going, "Nah, you guys probably didn't do a good enough investigation. Why don't you dig a little bit deeper and get back with us?" Because I have sent several of these over, and I have gotten very upset with some of them that I've gotten back, that I do think the Office of the Independent Monitor allowed to slip through the cracks and give a free pass to the Denver Police Department. Perhaps it was a mistake. Perhaps it was in the middle of them losing the Independent Monitor and the office was in disarray on help, COVID, right? A lot of factors there. So because I've always had excellent experiences with the determination letters sent, I wanted to give them the benefit of the doubt. So I do have a feeling that they're taking this one way more serious. And look, the Denver Police Department, they hate me over in internal affairs. That's a good thing. They absolutely hate me. They wrote me a determination letter over that video, Kennyberg. If any of you are watching the Kennyberg video, when he came over there and he told Jonathan, you need to move this, blah, blah, blah. And I told him to get the fuck out of there. And I filed a complaint on that guy because he, I believe, violated a couple department policies, including activating his body cam from the beginning. But I didn't say that. I didn't really want to give them any hints to be able to go find policy violations. I just made the complaint for his unprofessional demeanor. And if Denver would have been doing their job, they would have held him accountable. But why are they going to do that when they've got mouthy Regan saying mean things to him and hurting his feelings and making him get in his cop car and leave? So instead, they justified all of his actions, and they sent the case over to the city attorney, who said that he would accept charges against me from the Denver Police Department. So I've been waiting for those charges. All that was entirely protected First Amendment activity. I wasn't interfering with an investigation. I wasn't doing anything criminal. But the Denver Police Department Internal Affairs claimed I was, and claimed that they sent it to the city attorney, and that the city attorney would have accepted charges. So why not charge me? Why didn't they just do it? Whatever. They really don't want to take me down that rabbit hole either, but so whatever. I am well versed on filing internal affairs complaints with multiple agencies throughout the state. Quite a bit, as a matter of fact. And Denver's, is the only one that has this level of transparency, that we, the citizens, can have some hope in getting honest resolutions on. Littleton, they receive an F plus so far in all of my interactions with them, and the only reason they got the plus on the F was because of the interaction with Will Lewis, one of their officers. So we shall see how much further we're going to go down the rabbit hole with Littleton. But for right now, I have to go tend to my gentleman that's in a motel room and figure out how I'm going to problem solve some issues there. Does anybody have any questions? Is there anything else in here that we should talk about? I haven't really been reading all this. We got lots of people watching still. So I hope the entire city of Littleton, city government and police department is watching right now. Which they're not, but... hey, Tom. Thomas Stocks, how are you? Yeah, be remotely publicly accessible to view in real time. Yeah, I kind of do too. But, you know, then you got all those nuances about how to protect victims and children and, you know, heinous crime. So I've been on some conversations with body cams, with DAs, on why it's important to elect a good DA as well. Because little do people know, the DA or the city attorney holds all the power to hold that video as long as they want. People don't know that, so you should know that it's important you pay attention to who you're electing in those positions. Yeah, how is everything going with my homeless friends? It's rough. It's pretty rough. You know, you came in late. I learned some things while I was gone. A lot of people don't respect my efforts. In fact, they've blatantly displayed in their actions why they don't have any respect for what I do to try to help them out. And, you know, so be it. It is what it is. Not all of them, but I'm gonna go with the majority of them. So, I've had to scale back a little bit with that. You know, people still have a right to survive. You know, food and water and sanitation are real things. RP, thank you for being in here. Thanks, Joey, from Canada. That's awesome. So, yeah, that's the scoop, and we'll see where things take us. And we'll see how Littleton PD is gonna either clean up their act or not, because they're stuck with me quite a while. So, and I'll make that promise. As long as I am alive and capable and you know, nothing horrible happens, I will hold Littleton to cleaning up their mess, because I got a big one. A big one. Thank you, RP. Sounds like a plan. How many am I working with right now, Ellie? So on an individual basis, like really working with, like really trying to meet some end goals, about 6. I'm gonna have to narrow that down to about 3, because a few of them have let me know in no uncertain terms that they don't need my help any longer. So that's, you know, that's okay. These are those honest conversations that we can never have about why some people will always stay homeless. I've had some accusations made about me that I've stolen from the homeless. I know exactly where they're coming from. Not a new thing. So that's why I take all these interactions with law enforcement incredibly serious. Now, we got a lot of mental health issues out here. We have a lot of people that do feel that they are being stolen from by everyone and anyone that they come in contact with. So yeah, it's just a constant reevaluating and readdressing to figure out where I can best plug in and utilize my time and the little resources that I have. So, but like I said, if more people would do that on an individual basis without even trying to run a nonprofit, if somebody just went out and adopted a homeless individual and said, hey, what's going on in your life? Can I help you? What do you need? What are some barriers for you? Right? I mean, things would be a lot different if that was the case. It's been a fantastic show. Thanks, Chuck. Yeah, don't lose sleep. You're in it with me. Thank you, guys. I appreciate it. And so, you know, if any of you are inclined, in closing, let's say, if any of you are inclined to write the Littleton city government, or any of those people in law enforcement, to include the chief, all of these command staff people that I've had interaction with, feel free to do it. But do not do it with the intent to harass. Look, you know, we know where the boundary is on the First Amendment. I mean, if you have something to say, say it. But, you know, please don't threaten. Please don't try to punish anyone associated with them. Please do not dox people. You know, I can get snarky and mouthy and all those kinds of things, but it never happens without a reason until you prompt me. Okay? And I've been more than reasonable and rational with the Littleton Police Department, and I have no more patience for the stupidity and the lies. All of this that was evolving in the process. So I make no apologies for calling them fucking idiots, morons, whatever. You know, whatever you want to say as your piece, okay? But don't do it with the intent to continue to abuse electronic communication, okay? Or the telephone, okay? Be smart. Get some answers. Let's talk about it. Is anyone having any luck connecting with the chief? Because I sure the hell am not going to make any effort to connect with him. I have no reason to. I mean, this guy supports all this shit. He has one of two things. He totally supports all this, or he is so disconnected he has no clue what the hell's going on. Either of those scenarios doesn't work for me to try to contact him and say, hey, buddy, did you know that your guys are doing this? I mean, the guy needs to be fired. So, you know, whatever. Yeah, if he's a chief, try smoke signals. No, look, when I get some time a little bit later, I'll put it all in the description for you. All the email addresses, all the public contact information. And if anybody wants to know how much money these cops make, how much this command staff makes, let me know. I'm going to continue to talk about that too. The chief, I think his base salary, don't quote me, but I'm pretty sure I'm right. His base salary is $172,000 base. That doesn't include benefits, that doesn't include overtime, that doesn't include all kinds of other stuff. So he's making in excess, you know, probably $225,000 a year. Yes, thank you. And always, please, keep water in your car. There's one thing you can do, just one thing. Give them a bottle of water. Okay? Thank you very much, everyone, for your time. I'm going to go because I really have to go do this because it's going to be bedtime pretty soon. And I have to start all over. Thank you, guys. Have a good night.